Welcome to the IpX True North podcast, where we connect people, processes, and tools.
Welcome to the IpX True North podcast. I'm Staci Hegarty with IpX. Joining me today are two wonderful academic professionals from Fort Hays State University. We have Dr. Kaley Kraus and Dr. Jeni McRay. Welcome, ladies.
Hello.
Great to be here.
So first of all, I'd like you to both introduce yourselves, let our listeners know a little bit about your professional experience, and then we'll get into the podcast.
Okay, well, I'm Dr. Jeni McRay, and I'm the Assistant Provost of Internationalization and Strategic Initiatives at Fort Hays State University. And I supervise 3 units at the university, one for Global Affairs and International Student Services, the other for Professional and Continuing Education, and then also our Civic Learning and Engagement unit. And the easiest way to explain what connects those 3 units that are in my portfolio are external partnerships.
And I am Kaley Kraus. I am the Director of Professional and Continuing Education here at Fort Hays State. I was previously an assistant professor of organizational leadership here at Fort Hays, and I've always worked in higher ed or higher ed adjacent. But my expertise really lies in organizational development and leadership development and organizational improvement. So I'm very happy to be here.
Well, thank you again for joining us today. I know we've got a lot we want to cover and a lot of things that are typically not covered on this particular podcast. We are typically talking about change excellence and configuration management and all those kind of manufacturing and engineering buzzwords. But it's more than that, right? There's so much more to organizations becoming not only efficient, but becoming engaging for their employees. So today we do want to talk about the importance of professional and continuing education. We want to talk about micro-credentials. We want to talk about digital badging, and as well as international partnerships. So we've got a lot of ground to cover. Let's get into it right now. So for listeners who may not be familiar, what is professional and continuing education, or PCE?
Yeah, we use the short term PCE, but it's basically all kinds of both business to business and business to consumer offerings that are skills based. And it can be across multiple disciplines. So we do training and consulting services for local and regional employers, and even with some of our international partners. And the professional and continuing education unit, while we've been doing some of the kind of continuing education for 100 years at Fort Hays State University, the PCE unit is a reimagined and reorganized unit at the university that is really trying to build a lifelong learning ecosystem. So it's not just about degree credentials, both undergraduate and graduate. It's really about being a one-stop shop for everyone across the lifespan, no matter where they are in their career, reskilling and upskilling, short courses, even individual workshops and webinars and power hours on a variety of different topics that people find they need to have additional training on, just to keep up with their professional skills and the way that things are changing in this fast-paced working environment that we find ourselves in 2026.
And I know we've talked about this before, and we are all either currently working in higher ed. I used to work in higher ed, so we absolutely believe in undergraduate degrees. We believe in graduate degrees, but what we're finding is that the world and technology and everything is changing so quickly that about 5 years after earning an undergraduate degree, whatever you learned that was specific to your major is obsolete within 5 years of graduation. So professional and continuing education is much more important now than it's ever been. What kinds of problems or opportunities does PCE aim to address for adult learners, employers, communities? It's not typically something that someone fresh out of high school is going to go into professional and continuing education because they don't really have anything.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So continuing education is built into many professions like health studies, counseling, some of the education professions, attorneys, There are some professions that require continuing education throughout the career to stay fresh, if you will. That's been true for a long period of time. And typically those are the ones where you might get licensed in some way, shape, or form. And so it helps people keep their licensing. But professional education is needed across a variety of industries, across a variety of majors, across a variety of career stages and roles. And you're absolutely right. And as a matter of fact, I would say that in some areas, it might not even be 5 years. It might be more like 3. Think of people who are in a field that is being very disrupted by AI, for example, or other digital skills that people find themselves really kind of in the middle of this disruptive economy and labor market. And so professional education really is that idea of keeping up with very specific skills, and also to enhance for people who have undergraduate or graduate degrees. That doesn't necessarily mean that they have some of the durable skills that they find themselves in need of when they're in professional environments. So human skills, some basic skills in finance, and some of those digital skills, those may not have been part of your major. You may have taken a finance class, but if you didn't get an MBA, or if you weren't a finance major, you might find yourself a little bit below some of the skills you need if you're mid or late career and you end up being in charge of quite a large budget, and that's not something you've done before. I'm speaking from experience. That's what happened to me whenever I got into this role. That's why I use that example. Educated on a whole bunch of things, not that area. So I've found myself needing to take a few upskill classes. I think Kaley's doing the same thing right now as well. So we're trying to figure out what those opportunities for both durable skills and some of the other skills that people are needing in industries as they change, so that they can keep up with the professional requirements that they need.
And I'm kind of laughing because my undergraduate degree is in anthropology, and everybody was pretty sure I'd be back living in my parents' basement.
Right.
Ended up in a role. I was in a leadership role, and part of my job was managing the P&L. And someone had to teach me what P&L meant, because believe it or not, it doesn't come up much in an anthropology major.
No, but you have all those durable human skills that you need whenever you know how to study cultures and people and teams and things like that. So I think you're doing just fine with your anthropology degree.
So how does professional and continuing education integrate with the broader Fort Hays State University mission?
Well, our mission is to develop engaged global citizen leaders and to offer affordable and accessible education to all who want it. And we really stay true to that mission. We are a rural, regional, comprehensive university. And for those who are outside of higher education, that might not necessarily mean anything, in terms of a classification. But one of our key things is to, and always has been since we became a university in the early 1900s, was to provide some professional workforce. So our history is in nursing and education in rural areas. And then this university grew out of that, being that kind of extension university to build the skills in those two areas. And we've just built on that over the years. We believe that to develop engaged global citizen leaders, that you should have some educational opportunities throughout your lifetime to be a good citizen, to be a good leader, and to operate in the global economy that we have. So it really fits right in with that. And then as a regional comprehensive university, we have a responsibility within our state to meet the workforce and economic development needs of Western Kansas. And I'm not sure how much your listeners might be aware of just how rural Western Kansas is, but we are right smack in the middle of the left, or the westernmost 2/3 of the state. And we are the big town right in the center of that 2/3 portion of the Western state. And our town is a little over 20,000. And so, and there's multiple counties. Yes, it's quite rural. And so we need to meet the needs within our regional area. And that is absolutely mission driven. And it's why the university exists as part of the system of Kansas public higher education.
I do want to talk a little bit about continuing education as a strategic priority. So for IpX, that's something that we believe in from an educational standpoint. So Fort Hays offers continuing ed credits for our CM2 certifications. You also offer academic credit for our CM2 certifications. But what should organizations be looking at? I'm talking business and industry for reskilling and upskilling their existing workforce.
Well, I think they need to really understand and define what are the skill gaps that currently exist to try to fill some of those skill gaps, but also an investment in the future vision they have for their company and how they can build the skills of their workforce to meet whatever that new vision is. So it's not just individual people that need to upskill, refresh, reskill. Organizations have to define where they're going as well. And there are many industries that really are in the midst of that kind of disruption. And so how do you want to invest in your people to be able to have them be the best workers, no matter what, whether that's blue collar, whether it's white collar, service industry, banking industry, manufacturing, or small businesses even that focus a lot on customer service. What is it that your business or your industry needs to thrive, and how do you meet the needs of the people that are working on your behalf and on the organization's behalf to be the best that they can be? So it's really an investment in the skills that you need to thrive and grow as a business.
And I know it's dizzying for a lot of organizations that, oh my God, I mean, it felt like we all woke up one day and AI was available to all of us and it's going to solve all of our problems. And well, we don't need actual professional training. What we need is an AI bot to teach our certain department to do this particular task. And I think organizations are starting to figure out now that that's not exactly what we need to be doing. That we still require education. We still require training. That AI is not going to get us there. Well, I'm going to switch a little bit and we're going to talk micro-credentials and digital badging. So, Kaley, first of all, what's a micro-credential?
Yeah, that is actually an oddly complicated question because I'll be totally transparent with you. I mean, higher education institutions have been trying to figure out like a clean definition for that term for a couple of years now. But broadly speaking, it's a non-degree credential. And so you have your traditional associates, bachelor's, master's degrees, doctorate degrees, but this is a credential that does not take that long. And so it is that non-degree credential. It can include a variety of things. It can be professional development experiences that validate your learning. It can be based on industry verified professional certifications. I would say that the IpX CM2 certifications are micro-credentials in their own right. And anything from kind of the computer science or informatics industry, there's a lot of different professional certifications in that area. There's a lot of micro-credentials surrounding different leadership skills. And so just I mean, it's a simple answer from our point of view. Broadly speaking, it's a non-degree credential, but it still has value to the employer, and it validates a really structured learning experience based on skills development.
So why did Fort Hays decide to invest in micro-credentialing and all the things that come along with that? It's expensive to do. It's expensive to run from an organizational standpoint for a university. Why invest in that? Why not just add some more degrees or things like that?
Yeah, I mean, there's probably there's several reasons for that, but I think the main reason that Fort Hays really took that leap is that we just really have a history of innovation at our institution. We have tended to kind of punch up above our weight for many years. I will tell you that we were one of the first institutions nationwide to adopt correspondence learning, which turned into virtual learning, turned into distance education and online learning. We were one of the first nationwide that explored even the concept of an international partnership without outsourcing. So a lot of international partnerships out there might just like sell, your curriculum to an international school. We don't do that. We actually partner with international institutions. And we have built our online programs without using your third-party online program managers. And we're just always trying to be responsive to Western Kansas needs, knowing, where we are, and the population we serve, the region we serve. We know that learning takes place in a vast geographical area. And so we've always kind of had that innovation mindset of how can we reach new learners and how can we make sure that anyone who is seeking learning can find it accessibly. And so I think that's really kind of at the heart of why we decided to invest in this. Because of where we are, we really needed to make sure that we were providing those learning opportunities, not just at the traditional degree level, but throughout the entire life cycle of a human's learning.
I love that this is partially about making learning accessible to people because for so many, my daughter is a junior in high school. So we have started all of that college talk, and it's sort of great. Can't wait to spend $100,000 on this. Accessible and affordable is really, really, really important, as a lot of degrees are priced out for the average student. So walk us through the process of how a micro-credential is designed and approved at Fort Hays.
Yeah, so we kind of take multiple approaches to that. So one that really hits us probably the most is that we work directly with employers. So we have several employer partners or clients who are really seeking ways to professionally develop their workforce. And so we work directly with them, trying to understand what their needs are, any particular problems that they're trying to solve in their organization, any particular skills that need to be developed. And we develop those programs for those employers. So whether it's supporting them with computer application training, I'll tell you, Microsoft Excel is a big one, or if it's leadership development or supervisory skills. So we work directly with what employers need. We also do research on labor market needs. And so we have access to a couple of different databases here at the institution, where we can examine what skills are employers looking for right now that they're having trouble finding people for. So if there are certain jobs that stay open and posted for long periods of time, clearly there's a gap in the workforce. And so we need to try to fill that. So we identify what those skills are. And PCE, our unit, either creates that program on its own, or we might partner with subject matter experts throughout the institution, through our academic departments, or even externally. If there is an industry partner we know who is interested in passing along their knowledge through education, we'll work with them. And so what we go through those kind of two primary avenues, but we've also had conversations with academic departments who want to provide continuing education to our alumni, because our alumni know Fort Hays, they know our quality of education and quality of experience. And so we want to provide those learning opportunities as well. So it really is a collaborative effort with PCE. We don't really do anything in a silo. We are either working off of what employers are telling us they need, or what the data out there is telling us what the community needs.
I want to talk about digital badging. I think a lot of people, if you're over the age of 30, maybe you've heard that term in passing, but for a lot of people, it sounds like, oh, you got a cute little sticker to put on your LinkedIn page. So how does digital badging link together with micro-credentials, and why does digital badging matter? I do think for a lot of people, it kind of feels like the gold star that we would get on our spelling tests in elementary school. Explain that. That would be really helpful, I think, for our listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. So the bottom line with digital badging is that it supports transparency and confidence in the learning experience. So I think we've all seen resumes, right, of candidates applying for positions at our organizations where they say that they've completed all of these professional development opportunities, but we don't really know what that means, right? What actually occurred in that professional development opportunity? Did you just attend a webinar and answer emails while you were logged in? Or did you actually do something with what you were learning to actually prove you learned something? And so our digital badges follow the open badging standards that have been adopted nationwide by almost all digital badge companies at this point. And they are aligned with specific skills identified through labor market research, which means that there is metadata, and that's a very technical term, but it's the behind the scenes data, the information that an employer wants to know about that learning experience. So you can almost kind of think of it akin to like a digital transcript of sorts, specifically for that learning experience. So it really isn't just a fancy sticker that's on your LinkedIn page. It's not just an image. There is data behind that that verifies the learning experience, and what the employee gained in terms of specific skills through that learning experience. And so it's not just a sticker. It is proof that you learned something and that you know how to do something. So I really consider it as, I think it is just as high a quality and can be just as highly valued as any professional certification you receive hard copy paper wise. This just happens to be in a digital portable format.
And I love the digital badging because the metadata does describe what you learned. Because even looking at an official transcript from a college, you can guess maybe based on the title of the course what they learned, but it's not like there's a syllabus attached to anything. There's not a rubric of skills that were acquired in this class. So you really are sort of relying on what you think maybe somebody learned, as opposed to being able to click on that digital badge and go, ah, this is the thing. And I think we've talked about this before, and I don't know the answer, and you may not know the answer either. So one of the things that we hear a lot is that the way that we've gone about automating resume and application reviews, so that a very qualified person, if they didn't outwit the algorithm, their resume won't even make it to a decision maker. Do you think digital badging is a way to align a candidate's skills with a potential job?
Absolutely. I mean, the badging platform that we use actually aligns to specific skill sets that then align to job openings and workforce data. So you can see kind of how many jobs are available for people who have this particular skill, right? And then you can actually find those jobs. You can find those postings. And so the system itself makes those connections when we align the skills to the badges, to help learners find job opportunities that align with what they've been micro-credentialed for. And in turn, organizations can do the same thing, at least with our system that we're employing. And so we look forward to kind of seeing how students, or how learners rather, use that as we issue additional badges and build our micro-credential portfolio. We'll be excited to see just how much sharing is happening and how many skills are aligning to job opportunities.
The badging could potentially beat those algorithms on those HR portals. I love it.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about international partnerships, because we all know the world is getting smaller and getting more connected every single minute. Fort Hays has a long history of global engagement, and I'd love to talk about how micro-credentials, professional continuing education intersects with international partnerships. I know you've talked a bit about Western Kansas and providing the skills that are needed there. but I also know that you work in other countries. I mean, we're talking like Cambodia and a bunch of other places. So what kinds of partners does Fort Hayes currently?
We currently maintain several degree partnerships. Many of them are dual degree partnerships where our teachers go abroad and teach at our partner universities for students who are earning dual undergraduate degrees or MBA degrees. We do that in China and Cambodia. And then we also have partnerships that are what I would call a more traditional arrangement of international partnership. There are things like a 2+2. So the students who are getting an undergraduate degree will earn the first 2 years at the international institution and then plan to come abroad to our campus to finish their final 2 years. And we have those with multiple universities. There's 4 locations in Africa. And we have new partnerships in Brazil. We have one in Myanmar. We have an arrangement with Paraguay. And we're trying to expand most specifically for our Cambodian partnership. And professional and continuing education is also needed in those areas. And so we are just now beginning to explore what those opportunities might look like for professional and continuing education that would be different in our partner locations than would be here necessarily. And so a couple of the things that are really starting to take shape for us and understanding what our international partner needs are in the area of teacher professional development. And so in the United States, we have teacher licensure, we have requirements. Every state has requirements for what it means to be licensed to be a teacher, but that kind of professionalization of the teaching profession is not the same everywhere, and there isn't that same kind of infrastructure abroad. So we have several of our partners who are basically looking to us to provide teacher professional development for people who work in international schools, English language schools, working with intercultural and cross-cultural audiences in international schools. What is it like to be a good teacher and an effective teacher in those kinds of schools? And they're looking to us to provide that kind of professional training. So while we might offer continuing education credits for licensed teachers that teach in the United States, we have different needs for credentialing and different skills that are needing to be developed that haven't already been verified and validated internationally. And so those are some opportunities that we're finding that intersect with our international partners where we already offer undergraduate and graduate degrees. Did that answer your question?
I get so excited when I hear about all of these international partnerships because I have an idea of what I think the benefits are for both domestic students and international students. But how are these collaborations really enhancing learning for both domestic and international?
Well, I think they do it in a number of ways, and it depends on which model you're talking about. But at its simplest, I think that, first of all, we live in a global economy. We live in a global world. We, live in an information and knowledge economy. That's not going away. We're not putting that toothpaste back in the tube. So if you want to be an engaged global citizen leader, you can't forget about the global part of that. And so I think engaging across the world is really important, particularly when you consider that we have degree programs in things like international business, international economics, global affairs, international affairs, things like that. Well, we need to actually be doing some of those things as an institution that we're teaching. But one of the other real benefits for our student body on campus is the more we interact with our international partners and the more opportunities we have for people from a variety of areas to come to campus, is that people who by and large live in rural Western Kansas get exposed. They might not be able to travel themselves, right? We have a lot of first generation college students here at Fort Hayes, and a vast majority of our undergraduate students, even those who live on campus and go to school full time, also have jobs. They don't have the resources often to be able to go abroad for a semester or even do a study abroad trip. So we bring international experiences and intercultural competence experiences to campus. And so they really help a lot of our on-campus people who may not have that opportunity to travel. They still get to learn and interact with their peers in that way. But we also have these international partners that we can build programs with over and over again that are those study abroad opportunities or collaborative online international learning opportunities. Or we can offer things to the people here in Western Kansas that our international partners might be experts in, that we might not be experts in here, and we can leverage that by that learning back and forth. So I think there's a variety of ways that we can leverage our internationalization and international partnerships and really be, we feel like we are serving our region by the benefits of having those international partners in that intercultural competence and global economy building way. But also, quite frankly, it's another revenue stream that helps support the programs that we can offer here in Western Kansas and be as affordable as we are. We are the lowest cost and most accessible university in the entire state of Kansas, and not by a little. There's a huge difference between our tuition price tag here and some of our other peer institutions. And quite frankly, we support some of that low prices through some of the international partnerships that we have because of the financial benefits. And so that's a reality of it as well. And one that's important to the institution and to the longevity of the institution.
I want to start looking towards the future. I mean, obviously Fort Hays has already stepped into what I would consider looking into the future with all the internationalization and media and all the things that they've been doing that are really very forward looking. But I guess the simple question is, what do you think's next?
Oh gosh. I really see, micro-credentials and digital badges, they've been around, they've been trickling in and out of higher education and in and out of industry for several years now. I remember they were being discussed as the new big thing when I became a working professional, an assistant professor. I see them really making the biggest splash in the next 5 years. I really do. I think they're going to continue to proliferate the space in higher education among industry, among institutions, and the competition will grow. I mean, we've already kind of seen that with online education, and so it took a long time for that one to grow, and the pandemic was kind of the catalyst to finally punch that forward. But with micro-credentials, I really see them being a key part of the higher education kind of operation, because we have a lot of external forces on higher ed right now, and employers and learners, they are questioning the value, but we have value. We know that, and we have a story to tell. We don't just do traditional degrees anymore. Higher ed can be about a variety of learning experiences, and I see that gaining a lot of traction in the next 5 years, especially because we have so many baby boomers on the brink of retirement. More and more organizations are going to be investing in succession planning and leadership training because those boomers have been running organizations for a long time. And now it's time to bring in those younger folks, those Gen X's and millennials, who are going to need to upskill and reskill to be able to be just as successful as those boomers were. So I really see the next 5 years, it's going to make a big splash. I really do think so.
Well, if I can speak on behalf of my Gen X generation, yeah. Especially in leadership. Jeni, what do you think's next?
Oh, I'm very excited about the future. I think it's very easy to be, look, higher education and not just higher education, other industries really are in the midst of a major disruption right now. And I think that we get to define what that future is. And I think that employer partnerships and a lifelong learning ecosystems where people will continually be coming back to reskill and upskill is going to become the norm. In the same way. And I don't think it's going to replace undergraduate and graduate degrees. And I don't think there will be a little bit of disruption and a little bit of reshuffling for sure. And institutions have to figure that out and kind of ride those waves. But I don't think those are going to go away. But I think that people are really understanding what the value of continuous learning, not just in individual professions, but again, in how to manage the change, manage the fast-paced nature of the skills training, manage disruptions that are happening in a variety of professions, and also for just cultivating that sense of learning, even for learning's sake. People used to really not talk about that a lot. It was very focused on what are you going to do with your degree. If you go to college, it means that you want to do something in a career, very focused on career outcomes. And I'm not saying that that is necessarily wrong at all, but that was really shifted from the era before that, which it was really for citizenship and to get a broad, liberal education and to be an educated person. And it didn't, really matter exactly what you quote unquote majored in. I think a blending of those things is what is coming next, where people understand that for certain professions and certain careers and certain skill-based opportunities, that's what makes our business and industry and society grow. But right alongside that, we're also becoming better humans, and we're understanding that learning for learning's sake and learning to give back and learning how to be better people and have a little bit of that anthropologist within us, Staci. See, will also augment those career skills and the skills that we need for the workplace. I don't think you're going to be able to separate that necessarily. And I see this as an opportunity to really be more personalized learning, whether it is learning for learning's sake or whether it is for career or just because somebody wants to. And we want to be that opportunity that offers that kind of learning for people for whatever those needs are.
Well, I think that's an excellent note for us to end this episode with. Where can people find out more about the offerings at Fort Hays State University? Give me your website.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, our website's the first one, right? FHSU.edu. And if you add a /PCE, you'll find our unit specifically. If you're not aware, we do partner with IpX CM2. Obviously, Staci's aware. And so if you're interested in earning a badge for your CM2 certifications, we help facilitate that process. But we also offer credit for prior learning. So if you don't have a bachelor's degree or master's degree, but are certified in CM2, we can create a pathway for you to get some credit hours, a kickstart, if you will, on a degree plan, if that's something you're interested in doing. So fhsu.edu, and you can find us from there.
Well, Jeni, Kaley, thank you both for joining me today. This has been a great conversation. I could go on I can go on for hours about this. But we need to bring you back so we can talk some more specifics. For our listeners, if you'd like more information about Institute for Process Excellence, you can find that at ipxhq.com. Jeni, Kaley, thank you so much and have a wonderful day.
Thank you for tuning in today. Don't forget to subscribe and review the show. And for more information on IpX, visit ipxhq.com.